everybody kind of a 101, to give everyone a 101 kind of experience, just to get the basics. So we'll get started. Welcome to Diabetes 101. I'm Jen Reardon, one of your facilitators today, and we have.
I'm Jill Patterson, and I will be helping Jen.
Yes, so hello. Okay, so Diabetes 101. Oops.
Okay, good.
Good. Okay. So we're going to start off with kind of a general statement about our training today. So the purpose of this training is to present general information about diabetes, its symptoms, and treatment. This information is for professional development purposes only and is not intended to be shared or taught to participants. If a participant has concerns about diabetes, please refer them to their doctor or other healthcare professionals. And some other things related to diabetes that we cannot do with participants. We can't diagnose conditions or diseases. We can't relate an individual's medical experience to your own and recommend how to handle it based on your personal experience. Can't recommend that an individual take any type of medical supplements or pills. We don't want to allow group members to provide specific medical advice to each other during classes. We can't prescribe to specific foods to be included or excluded in a meal plan from a healthcare professional. We can't create a personal prescribed diet for a participant or change a sorry, I'm choking on my words here. Change a prescribed diet provided to a participant. So what questions do you have about that? I know it was lengthy. Okay. We'll move on to the next slide. So our objectives for today are to describe the difference between prediabetes, type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes, to recognize the complications from diabetes, and to explore the difference between the diabetes plate and MyPlate. So what have you heard about diabetes? Feel free to put something in the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself and share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Sometimes I've noticed with participants that it's a misconceived notion that, you know, they have high sugar because they eat a lot of sweets or desserts, but they don't realize that diabetes is affected by more than just that.
Yes, that's very true. Let's see, we have a couple of things in the comments. So Yesenia added that there's 3 types of diabetes. Whoops, just lost the comment, sorry. Diabetes is a disease that affects the pancreas. Jean-Antoine said metabolic issues. Felicia, I hear there's a type 3, and you develop it when you are older. So those are some of the things that are in the chat. So thank you for speaking up and sharing with us. Zoila just added diabetes could be dangerous for our body if we don't control it. Perfect. So we have a lot of things people have heard, and we know our participants have heard lots of different things as well. So let's move ahead and we'll talk about the types of diabetes. So really, what is diabetes? We'll take a look at how diabetes, what it is, how it works in the body. A person with diabetes has difficulty metabolizing carbohydrates. So metabolism is when our bodies turn fat and protein and carbohydrates into energy or use them to make other things our body needs to survive. So that's what metabolism means. I know that word sometimes can be hard to describe, and I think that this explanation of what metabolism is very good. Okay. Next. Okay, so whoop, we have a video we're going to watch a little bit of. Let's see. I don't hear any sound.
So I probably have to share with sound.
There you go.
The rarer types of diabetes too. What all types of diabetes have in common is that they cause people to have too much glucose in their blood. But we all need some glucose. It's what gives us our energy. We get glucose when our bodies break down the carbohydrates that we eat or drink, and that glucose is released into our blood. We also need a hormone called insulin. It's made by our pancreas, and it's insulin that allows the glucose in our blood to enter our cells and fuel our bodies. If you don't have diabetes, your pancreas senses when glucose has entered your bloodstream and releases the right amount of insulin so the glucose can get into your cells. But if you have diabetes, this system doesn't work. When you've got type 1 diabetes, you can't make any insulin at all. If you've got type 2 diabetes, it's a bit different. The insulin you make either can't work effectively or you can't produce enough of it. In both types of diabetes, because glucose can't get into your cells, it begins to build up in your blood. And too much glucose in your blood causes a lot of different problems.
Okay, and we will continue that video later on in this training. So
To begin with, it leads to diabetes symptoms.
there we go.
I just can't touch anything.
So, like the video said, as carbohydrates are broken down in the stomach and released into the bloodstream as sugar or glucose, the pancreas releases insulin to help the sugar move from the bloodstream into the muscle and fat cells. So the pancreas of someone with diabetes does not release enough insulin or maybe any insulin to help that sugar or glucose move to muscle or fat cells. So this is what causes
Like having to wee a lot, being incredibly thirsty, and feeling very tired.
Okay. So we watched this video, and I love this video because it's simple, but it packs a lot of information. The visual aspect of it, I think, really helps. I can share that when I was a student in college learning about diabetes, it took me forever to understand what insulin does and how it helps to open the cells to let the glucose in. So if I had this diabetes video, then it would have been really helpful for me. Okay, on to the next slide. So what questions do you have about our video or any of the information that we've shared so far? All right, we can move on to the next. So key points from this section of our presentation. Insulin is a hormone that's produced by the pancreas. So those of you who had said the pancreas has got something to do with diabetes, absolutely correct. Insulin allows sugar or glucose from broken down carbohydrates to exit the bloodstream and enter into our fat and muscle cells. And with diabetes, the body does not produce enough insulin or use insulin properly. And this is what causes the backup of sugar or glucose in the bloodstream. Okay, Jill.
Do you want me to do this part?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So there are different types of diabetes. Some have mentioned them already. But the first things first is there has to be a diagnosis of diabetes. And to do that, Usually it would be blood sugar. It would be over 126 or higher when you get diagnosed. That's a little higher. The normal range is between 70 and 100 for people that are non-diabetic. And then there's also an A1C, which is a blood test. And you want that, or you don't want that to be over 7. If it's over 7, a diagnosis of diabetes would occur. So we have prediabetes, and prediabetes means that the body is losing its ability to maintain a normal blood sugar level. This is also referred to as impaired glucose tolerance. This condition may be detected and reversed through a healthy diet and physical activity before type 2 diabetes is diagnosed. Prediabetes is diagnosed when fasting blood glucose is between 100 and 125. So fasting would mean you haven't ate within 8 to 12 hours of checking your blood sugar. Type 1 diabetes, this one has the body attacks its own pancreas cells, which makes this an autoimmune disease. The pancreas does not produce insulin or only in small amounts, and it is not enough to keep the blood sugar in the normal range. Type 1 is not reversible, and people with it must take insulin daily to survive. Diet and exercise are also part of managing blood sugars.
So Jill, we have a question. What
Yes.
does A1C stand for?
That is just the name of the test that they do. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I can look it up. We can during one of our breakout sessions, and I will get back to you.
I don't think it's anything. It's just hemoglobin A1C.
Yeah. But we can find out possibly. I don't know why it is A1C. It is just a blood test, and it tests the level of your blood sugar.
Over the course of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Type 2 diabetes, the body does not effectively use the insulin it produces. This can be caused by excess weight, because the weight, the weight may affect the way that the insulin key fits with the cell receptor locks. Although many adults are diagnosed with type 2, it has been more common in youth in recent years. It is commonly believed that type 2 can be reversed. However, it is not reversible. A healthy diet and physical activity are important in managing type 2. In some cases, insulin may be prescribed in advanced cases. So it was believed that if you worked with your diet and you were exercising, that you would eventually be free of diabetes. You can live a healthy lifestyle if you've been diagnosed with type 2. You can live a healthy lifestyle, you can lose some weight, but the diagnosis of being a type 2 diabetic will always be there. Because if you took away those things that you did to alleviate the signs of diabetes, such as like the higher blood sugars or the higher A1Cs, you would still have the type 2 diabetes. All right, and then we have our gestational diabetes. People that are pregnant can experience hormonal imbalance or a shortage of insulin, which causes high blood sugar while pregnant. Symptoms typically reverse after birth. However, gestational diabetes makes it more likely for the pregnant person to develop type 2 diabetes in the future. This type can be controlled with diet alone, but may also need insulin or other medications. Somehow the placenta ends up kind of doing what the pancreas does and blocks that insulin from working correctly in the body, which causes gestational diabetes. Okay. Now is the time to get the worksheet out if you have not yet. So what is the difference? We are going to complete the first section of the worksheet, and we're going to break you out into some breakout rooms so that you can work with people and discuss the answers. So I'm going to stop sharing right now.
And I've got the breakout rooms ready to go.
All right. Does anyone need the worksheet?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't get it, Nitty? Sorry. I will send it to you right now, Nitty. I don't know. You must not be on that group one yet.
I can send it, Jill. I have it.
I got it.
Ready?
I
Okay.
think I
Alright,
need
it's
it.
going
I think
next.
I need it too.
With that.
Nicole, sorry.
Okay, sorry. Got it, Joe?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, we'll see you guys in about 5 minutes.
Mike.
Bye.
Ah. Welcome back. You beat me to it, Jen.
Oh, okay. Welcome back, everyone.
Okay. Many more now. Yay.
Welcome back. All right. How do we do?
Good.
So we're just going to go through it real quick to make sure everyone has the correct answers. If you read the instructions, there could be more than one answer.
Yes.
So, all right. Would anyone like to answer this type of diabetes is reversible? And you can use chat or you can call out.
Pre-diabetes and GD.
Yes, gestational. So pre-diabetes can be reversed and also gestational. But number 2, poor control of this type can have lasting consequences.
All of them. All of them.
I would agree, all of them. Actually, on my answer sheet, I only put type 1 and 2, but now as I think about it, gestational has some pretty serious effects that it could do to the fetus. And again, with pre-diabetes, if you let it go, you probably end up with diabetes. So yes, all of those. Number 3, this type is occurring in youth more often.
Type 2.
I heard Tebby say type 2. Yes.
Abby's there.
Most of the people who have this type are middle-aged or older.
Type 2.
Yes, type 2. Number 5, people with this type of diabetes must take insulin to survive.
One
Type-
and 2.
Yeah.
Morning
Yeah.
too.
Mainly just 1. 2 may be prescribed insulin, but there's other medications that type 2 may be prescribed. But type 1, most definitely, you need insulin to survive. Number 6, this type of diabetes is not reversible.
Type 1. 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yes. Now with type 2, you can, again, get back into the normal range with your numbers and your A1C, but you have to do certain things to get to that point. If you took away those things, you would be right back with type 2 diabetes. So it can be very managed, but you will always have a type 2 diagnosis. Number 7, this type is an autoimmune condition.
1.
Yes, type 1. Number 8, this type only appears when pregnant.
Gestational.
Yes, gestational. And number 9, diet and exercise are part of a management plan.
All of
All.
All of them, yes. Nice job.
That's good job, everybody.
All right, I will. Okay. Let me get my other screen. Okay. All right, so key points for the types of diabetes. Diabetes may be diagnosed by testing fasting blood glucose levels. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease in which the body's pancreas does not produce enough insulin to keep blood sugar in a healthy range. Insulin is required for management. Prediabetes occurs when the body is losing its ability to keep blood sugar in a healthy range, and it is reversible. Type 2 diabetes is diagnosed if prediabetes is not reversed. The body has lost its ability to maintain blood sugar in a healthy range without some kind of intervention like a diet, physical activity, and/or medication. And gestational diabetes occurs when a pregnancy results in a hormonal imbalance that includes a shortage of insulin. So what questions do you have at this point? Okay, again, if you do have questions, you can ask in the chat throughout. Okay. You want me to keep going, Jen?
Oh, I can go.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about complications of diabetes and what are some complications from diabetes that you've heard participants talk about. And again, you can call out or put them in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with.
Kidney disease.
Can you repeat that, Maria?
Kidneys disease.
Kidney, yes, kidney. Yeah, that's a tough complication of uncontrolled blood sugars.
Blindness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amputations. Amputation. Amputation, yes.
Yes. Yep, we have eye issues, poor wound healing, weight gain. And we have a question, isn't controlling diabetes a lifelong commitment? It certainly
Yes.
is. Yesenia added heart attacks. Oh, I'm sorry, Anne-Marie.
Amputation.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm. Okay, all pretty horrible things in my opinion, so.
The
Okay,
video's coming up.
okay.
There
Hold
are
on.
two main
Not gonna rewatch everything.
I'll move to the part we didn't watch.
To begin with, it leads to diabetes symptoms like having to wee a lot, being incredibly thirsty and feeling very tired. You may also lose weight, get infections like thrush, or suffer from slow healing wounds. Over a long period of time, high glucose levels in your blood can seriously damage your heart, your eyes, your feet, and your kidneys. These are known as the complications of diabetes. But with the right treatment and care, people can live a healthy life. And there's much less risk that someone will experience these complications. If you've got diabetes, you can find lots of information and
Right.
support.
Okay, so blood sugar should be kept in a healthy range and should not be too high or too low. So when you have diabetes and get a plan from your medical professional can help you to prevent high or low blood sugar, both of which are dangerous. This plan should include meal planning, medication control, and physical activity recommendations. Meals and snacks should be spaced out throughout the day to manage the supply of carbohydrates that are coming into the body. Medical professionals are the only ones who can diagnose whether a blood sugar is too high or too low. So heart health is also good for diabetes. People with diabetes are at a higher risk of developing heart disease. And heart disease could be, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, heart attack, stroke. And complications may be delayed or may never even occur in a person with diabetes if they manage their blood sugar and eat a diet that's heart healthy. So heart healthy foods are low in saturated fat and trans fat, high in fiber, and supportive of a healthy weight. Things that we already teach our participants. So it's heart healthy for everyone. Okay, some complications from the uncontrolled diabetes. And we heard a little bit about this on the video. And so one of the things, hypertension or high blood sugar. And
Blood pressure.
What?
Blood pressure.
Well, what did I say? I'm sorry.
Sugar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Blood pressure. Thank you. Cardiovascular disease. So the things we talked about, heart disease, stroke. You could also have a short-term complication of high cholesterol, and that can also lead to cardiovascular disease or stroke. Poor circulation, blindness, poor wound healing, potential limb amputation. It showed us all that in the video when they put the blue parts onto the person's body. So those are also all long-term complications. And decreased kidney function. And someone did mention dialysis in our little discussion for this. And, I don't know if you've ever known somebody on dialysis, but it is a tough diet to follow, limited liquid intake, and having to go and get your blood cleaned out a number of times a week so that you can stay alive, essentially. So, not too fun. Okay, so what about, we hear high blood sugar, which is hyperglycemia. So if you, did you want to say something, Jeff?
Nope.
Okay. So if you have high blood sugar, you may have a really increased thirst, and we mean like thirsty all the time. Frequent urination, and that could be from the increased drinking, but it all works together. So that can happen. Extreme hunger. And what's happening is your glucose isn't, there's no more room for it to come out of your blood stream into your cells. And things are just, you get really hungry and you do not feel very well if you have high blood sugar. Blurred vision can also be a sign that you have high blood sugar. So if you normally see clear and then all of a sudden things are blurry, that could definitely be a sign that you need to see the doctor. Slow healing cuts and sores, and then fatigue. You're just absolutely exhausted with high blood sugar. And if it's high enough, you'll get admitted to the hospital so that they can bring your blood sugar back down to a more average range, and you'll feel a whole lot better as well. Okay, the next slide.
There are some notes. So a person with hyperglycemia is considered, or is usually considered to be a blood glucose level greater than 180, 1 to 2 hours after eating. It can vary depending on what your target blood sugar goals are. And early symptoms of hyperglycemia include increased thirst, the frequent urination, headache, blurred visions. And long-term hypoglycemia include fatigue, weight loss, skin infections, and slow healing cuts and sores. Just want to make sure we got the numbers in there.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, so treating hyperglycemia, so treating high blood sugar. Type 1, people with type 1 diabetes need to take more insulin according to their treatment plan. And type 2, people with type 2 diabetes, or those not requiring insulin, can make dietary changes and be more physically active. If a person takes insulin to manage diabetes, injected insulin is the main way to treat those hyperglycemic episodes. Everyone requires different insulin doses. So a healthcare provider will determine which dose is best for an individual to treat and prevent high blood sugar. Dietary changes and exercise plans can also help to manage your blood sugar to prevent hyperglycemia. So for people who have type 2 diabetes and don't require injected insulin, the big thing is lifestyle changes, such as changes to your diet, to your eating habits, to your eating patterns, and to exercise, as well as possibly oral diabetes medications can help to manage the hyperglycemia. Okay, what questions does anybody have so far? I don't want to just buzz through everything if people have some questions. Okay. So low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. So hypoglycemia is also very serious and needs to be corrected immediately. If a person's blood sugar continues to go low, it can lead to death. It occurs when a person with diabetes does not eat enough food. Maybe they skip meals. Maybe they've taken too much insulin. And the hypoglycemia occurs when blood sugar drops below 70. Symptoms of low blood sugar or hypoglycemia include shaking or trembling, a faster heart rate, extreme hunger, sweating, confusion and difficulty concentrating, and dizziness. You could also have a headache, pale skin color, sudden moodiness, and a tingling sensation around your mouth or seizure. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong when your blood sugar gets too low. So it's definitely something, that you always have to be that you always have to be aware of and be managing so that you don't get sick. Okay, next slide. So treating hypoglycemia. So you want to eat or drink something that contains carbohydrates, but specific advice for raising blood sugar must come from your healthcare provider. So the eating or drinking something that contains carbohydrates is going to differ from person to person based on what their healthcare provider has recommended. Okay, so what questions do you have? So we do have a question, is diabetes treatable and or curable? So diabetes is treatable. Curable, it's not curable for type 1. Type 2, it's not curable, but you can get your blood sugar range back into a normal range, diet, exercise. Pre-diabetes is reversible. I don't know if we want to say curable, but it's reversible. So you can have pre-diabetes and then work hard with your diet and exercise, and then bring your blood sugar numbers back down into the normal range. All right, we're going into breakout rooms again. And if you want to work on section 2, the complication scenarios, we'll bring you back in about 5 minutes and hear what you have to say. Hello, everyone. Still waiting for a few to come on back. Okay. All right, Jill? Jill, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those little scenarios. They were really hard to come up with. So would anyone or any group like to share what they thought for the first one, where a participant in your class mentions that they have diabetes and that they sometimes, or that sometimes when they skip a meal during the day, they begin to feel shaky, start to sweat, and their heart rate increases. Given the situation and your role as an FNAP educator, what's an appropriate response to give to the participant?
We say it's important not to skip meals and talk to your doctor.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Yeah, we think it's important that you ask them what they do in this situation if this has happened before. I think it's important to note like allergens and stuff. It's not good to just be like, oh, eat this or drink this. And like, worst case scenario, things escalate and it becomes much worse than necessary. So yeah, ask what they do in the past. And somebody also in my group made a good point. Maybe since we might be in a school setting, it kind of sounds like, call the nurse, because I bet you they have a lot more information on that participant's diabetes history.
That's a great idea. So you could do.
Yes, I like that.
Well, you did provide correct answers. There's no one correct answer, and you did say talk to a healthcare provider. If they do have diabetes, they should have a management plan. They should know what to do if they are going into hyperglycemic, which this is. You can also just, you don't necessarily have to encourage foods to eat, but encourage eating throughout the day, having healthy snacks available if there's not time to eat a full meal. So just encouraging them to have things available so that the this doesn't happen and they don't end up with a low blood sugar. So you are correct, and they should have a management plan.
Jill,
Yes.
I have there was a little something in our group. I said no, but they were saying like give them something sweet or something, and I'm thinking we cannot be giving them anything, not even a sweet or anything, because we don't know the other part of the situation. That's something.
You are correct. We are not recommending you give anyone. This was they mention that sometimes when they don't eat or skip a meal during the day that they go low, and they're not saying that they're going low right now. So we might have to reword this because it wasn't a current situation where they felt they were low. But that sometimes when they are busy and they skip a meal, that they start to feel shaky and, gets us some signs of a hypoglycemic or low blood sugar is coming on. So this wasn't that the person was actually going low. It was that they just mentioned, sometimes I feel this way when I skip a meal, and you could recommend talk to their doctor.
Yes.
Or even the school nurse, and then just suggesting try not to skip meals, have healthy snacks available, and those types of things. So yes. Yeah, I would. I mean, if someone did start to have a low blood sugar in your class, it can be very scary, because you do get very confused, and it's very hard to tell. So I would definitely get agency staff in there. Hopefully it's not a home visit. Always, when in doubt, call for help.
Yeah.
Really. So, but this was just a situation where the participant mentioned that they sometimes experience low blood sugars, and you could suggest this type of thing. So yes. All right. And the next scenario. So during a class, a participant states that they were recently diagnosed with diabetes. And they share that they do have a management plan from their doctor, and they need to be more physically active to prevent complications. What can you share with them?
We can watch the concert tonight for the fire in LA. It's got a whole bunch of really good performers on it.
And
30
dance.
minutes walk 5 times a week. That will help.
Yeah.
Change eating habits and
Yeah.
times. Eating times is very important.
Yes, every 3 to 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Take a walk.
Yep, they can definitely walk.
Depends if they type 1 and type 2. Does it matter? Because of
Nope.
physical activity? Okay.
Any other suggestions for how they could do some physical activity to help prevent some complications?
Taking some dancing classes or something like that, something, or doing even some chair, if they can't do certain things, doing some chair exercise.
Something they enjoy.
Yeah,
That's
excellent.
true. I agree.
Drink a lot of water.
That does help. Helps everyone. Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so you are all correct. They can also work with their healthcare provider. Again, if you don't feel comfortable providing information, just refer them back to their doctor. And the doctor should be able to make some recommendations. Or they better. You could also recommend those things that you said: walking, dancing, playing with their kids, some strength training activities. All of those would be appropriate. Those physical activities that you do in your lessons, those help as well. Let me check the chat.
Taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator, walking,
yeah.
parking your car a little further so you could walk a little more. Those little by little, but it helps.
Yep. Kim says that some communities actually have diabetic groups who can meet up. So that's even better. Maybe, even it's a little support group. You can encourage them to reach out to their community. It's excellent. So yeah. All right.
I'm sorry. One of the things that I like to always make a remark that don't think, oh, I have diabetes, poor me. It's like, oh my God, it's a life threatening. No, may change in your lifestyle and don't think that you are diabetic. Think that you have diabetes, but diabetes doesn't have you. You can fight, you can do exercise, you can eat better, and check the times that you eat, because sometimes people eat so late in the night. And that is no good. That really will put your numbers high, So that's what I really like to always make a point of it, that we have to change the times that we eat and see how we balance in our meals.
That is correct.
Yes. Thank you
And
for
that's the way
sharing.
I thought of it too. When I was diagnosed, I was like, oh, all right, I have to pay attention to what I eat and exercise. I got this. And everyone's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, it's just life. It's very manageable if you want it to be. So yeah. All right. Well, excellent answers. And we're gonna kick into our last section here. Go for it, Jen.
Okay, so what are some foods that contain carbohydrates? You just call them out.
Everything. Potatoes.
Yes.
Carrots.
Plantain.
Pasta, bread,
Pasta.
Pasta, yes.
Rice.
cereal, rice, fruit, beans, grains.
Cupcakes.
Exactly. It's a lot of
Cupcakes.
different foods for sure. Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Go to the next slide. Chocolate. Thank you, Felicia. So we find carbohydrates in all the food groups. So balancing carbohydrates with other foods is important to managing your blood sugars. And along with protein and fats, carbs are one of the main nutrients found in foods and drinks, as you know. And carbohydrates are sugar or glucose molecules. And your body breaks carbohydrates into glucose, which is then the main source of energy for your body's cells, tissues, and organs. So this is kind of a fun graphic. If you look at this, you can see a person's eating a banana. A banana has 17 grams of carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, and then you can see the glucose enters the bloodstream. The second example is a piece of naan bread. Naan has 43 grams of carbohydrates, which are then broken down into glucose and enter the bloodstream. And you can see how many more, how much more glucose is in the blood from the bread than from the banana. One has more carbohydrates than the other.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a nice visual explanation, I think. So people who are diagnosed with any type of diabetes need to avoid overwhelming their body's ability to maintain blood sugar in a healthy range. So learning how to count carbohydrates involves reading food labels, which I know you're all experts at, to see how many grams of carbohydrates are in foods and drinks that they're choosing. A healthcare professional works with individuals to develop an eating plan with their carbohydrate goals. So take into account, you know, everybody's got different lifestyles, different work and family needs. You know, it really needs to be a personalized plan so that it works for the person with diabetes. And then as shown in the diagram, food and beverages with higher amounts of carbohydrates can overload the bloodstream, like in the example of the naan bread. So this causes blood sugar levels to rise to unsafe levels, and foods and beverages that take longer to break down can help keep your blood sugars at safer levels. Okay, next slide. So we're all very familiar with MyPlate.gov here on the left, and then we've got the diabetes plate here on the right. And MyPlate encourages people to eat a variety of nutrient-dense foods, make half your plate fruit and vegetables, while the diabetes plate really focuses on carbohydrates and managing the carbohydrates in what you eat. So half of the healthy diabetes plate would be non-starchy vegetables, 1/4 of the plate protein, and then 1/4 of the plate carbohydrate containing foods, and then off to the edge is the water or the no calorie drink. So as Jill and I were kind of researching the diabetes plate to see what kind of changes there were since we, you know, last time we talked about diabetes, it's that all the carb foods, whether it's a dairy food, it's a piece of bread, it's some fruit, it's rice, whatever you decide to eat can only really take up that 1/4 of your plate for the carbohydrates to try to balance the load going into your body when you eat. So, all right. Next slide, please. So key points for the diabetes plate: half the plate, non-starchy vegetables. And then 1/4 protein, 1/4 is carbohydrate. And the carbohydrate includes legumes also, so like black beans and pinto beans. So the best choices for each calorie are those that are higher in fiber and lower in added sugar, fat, and salt, which is what anybody who's looking for a healthy diet wants to do. And the key differences between the plates are that starchy vegetables, legumes, and grains belong in that carbohydrate section because they're very concentrated or have a lot of carbohydrates in a serving. Cheese belongs in the protein section because it's low in carbohydrates and high in protein. Fruit and dairy foods are put into the carbohydrate group, like I was explaining too, because like milk, yogurt, and fruit are higher in carbohydrates as well. So people with type 1 diabetes are typically trained to count their carbohydrates so they can calculate how much insulin they need before eating or drinking. Whereas people with type 2 diabetes are trained on the diabetes plate method, where they limit the amount of carbohydrates they consumed. But each type requires a management plan from the healthcare provider that takes into account how this person lives their life. Okay, next slide. So we're gonna send you off into breakout rooms again, quick, and have you work on section 3 of your worksheet with your group. And we'll bring you back in 5 minutes and hear from a couple groups. So thanks for sticking with us. I know we're a little bit over time and we appreciate it. Right. Let's break out rooms. Possible my breakout rooms are stuck. It's possible, Jill. Can you do it? It's like,
Welcome back, everyone. All right, so let's talk about our final breakout room and the diabetes plate. So for this scenario, you were asked to help make some recommendations about meals a participant could make based on their management plan. Their doctor recommends that they follow the plate method to help manage diabetes and prevent complications that could occur. You can refer to the diabetes plate to help make some recommendations. So would anyone like to answer this?
Well, I'm looking at the plate. I think beans would be really good. I mean, there's some carbs, carbohydrate foods, plus non-starchy vegetables, maybe not the beans so much. But, if they make like a stir fry, something like that, looking at the plate.
Yep.
I'm just concerned about the 0 or low calorie drinks. Somebody mentioned something about net carbs. I don't know if you can explain some of those.
Yeah, we can talk about that real quick in a minute.
Okay.
Any other groups like to share?
When do you want to share? Choice by choice?
Well, I mean, in our group, we did talk about, that you can't make any personal recommendations or give them a diet to follow. But if and the group also taught in New York City, and they use the ESBA curriculum. And so, like, if you're using the FAB curriculum, I mean, there are lessons where you're making a meal. So I mean, you could help them maybe understand what are the non-starchy vegetables to fill up half of that plate. So you might not recommend like something specific, but you could help them out with what are the non-starchy veggies that could help them.
Yes, and that's what we were looking for. Not necessarily saying you should eat these, but with this participant, they came with a management plan and they're just wondering what foods could they eat. So yeah, recommending though what vegetables are considered lower carb, foods that have protein in them. You can recommend those types of foods when they come with a plan. You wouldn't want to have a participant come and be like, I have diabetes, tell me what to eat.
They come like that.
That is not your job. Their doctor needs to tell them foods that they should eat and then the amounts that they should eat. However, if they're wondering like, okay, my doctor did tell me to eat more non-starchy vegetables. I love potatoes. What is something else I could eat? Then you can give recommendations like these are other types of non-starchy vegetables that you could enjoy. So those would all be appropriate answers. But yes, again, talk to your doctor. All right.
I think it's important to remind them, because when you tell them half your plate veggies, non-starchy, and sometimes they don't really know. Like I know in the Hispanic culture, they love their starchy vegetables, so it's just to remind them, like, we're not saying you can't have any, but you are going to put them into the carb section now. So think of it in that way. So if you're going to eat yuca with your meal, making sure that you're not adding the yuca with the rice or the plantain on top of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
All right.
And in that note, what some Spanish people do, they have like white rice with spaghetti.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
A bit quick too.
Oh, I think I need insulin just talking about that.
And plantas, Lucy.
Oh, I forgot about that.
All right. You want me to wrap up, Jen? All right. So as we mentioned at the start of the training, we cannot provide medical advice to participants. But there are still things you can do to help participants. If a participant has questions about diabetes, suggest that they contact their healthcare providers for either a diagnosis or a management plan that could include meal or physical activity plans or a prescription of medications. You can also encourage individuals to have regular health checks. If a participant has a management plan, you can provide suggestions for meals, snacks, or activities that would be appropriate to their plan. And during classes, you can also strengthen label reading skills by including it in each lesson, which I know that we do. So finally, what questions do you have? Any remaining questions? Check the chat. All right. So thanks for joining us today. You will be getting an email for a Qualtrics evaluation survey. We are always interested in hearing from you about any training topics or ideas you have. They can be nutrition related, technology related, professional development related, anything. Please let us know what you're looking for. And just a little disclaimer, this training was developed from Discovering Diabetes by Sonia Islam from 2015. We have updated it and removed some things based on newer objectives and updated diabetes information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was so great to see you all.
Likewise.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Bye.